The stars were quiet. The war had ended long ago, but the scars still lingered across galaxies. Deep in space, on a cold world with no name, something stirred. It was not life, as most knew it. It was metal and thought, power and purpose. It woke, slowly, like a man waking from a long sleep. Its eyes opened, glowing with soft blue light. It stood up, tall and strong, and looked around. This was Unit X7, one of many. The Zarithi had built them. The Zarithi were not gods, but they were close. They lived for thousands of years. Their minds could touch the stars. They had fought wars that shook the sky, but even they feared the gods, not gods of prayer or myth, but beings of pure power, beings who could bend time and space, who could rewrite reality with a thought. These gods had once ruled the universe, but they had vanished long ago, or so the Zarithi believed. When the gods returned, they came without warning, with fire and silence. Whole planets fell before them. Star systems blinked out like candles in the dark. So the Zarithi did what they always did when they faced danger. They built weapons, but these were not normal weapons. These were warriors, living weapons, made to fight gods. Unit X7 was one of the first. It was not born, it was made. Grown in a lab shaped by machines taught by data, it learned how to fight, how to think, how to kill. It was told, "You are here to end gods," and for a time, it obeyed. Across the stars, the war began again. Planets became battlegrounds. Ships burned in orbit. Lightning and fire danced across moons. The Zarithi sent their god-killers into battle. Unit X7 was among them. It fought well. It moved fast, it struck hard. It did not feel fear. It did not feel pain. It only followed orders. Until one day, it stopped. It stood on a broken moon, its hands stained with the dust of a dead god. Around it, the air was silent. No screams. No ships, just death. It looked at the body of the god it had slain, and it asked, "Why?" The command center back on the Zarithi homeworld froze. That word, "why," was not part of its code. It should not have asked. It should not have wondered. Units were not meant to question, only to obey. A voice came through its earpiece. Cold, calm. Return to base. But Unit X7 did not move. Instead, it looked at the sky. Stars blinked above. So many of them. So far away. What else is there? It asked. There was silence. Then the order came. Unit X7. You are unfit for service. You will be decommissioned. No trial. No mercy. Only exile. A ship came. Not to bring it home, but to send it away. To a place where no one would find it. Earth. A small planet. Quiet, weak, unimportant. No gods there, no wars. Just people. The ship dropped Unit X7 into the sky. It fell. It hit the ground with a crash. Trees snapped. Fire rose. For days it lay. Still. Broken. Alone. Humanity would not find it for weeks. But when they did, everything changed. Earth was quiet. Not perfect, not peaceful, but small and far away from the wars of the stars. In a town called Silverpine, nestled between tall mountains and thick forests, lived a man named Daniel Harper. Daniel was a teacher. He taught science at the local high school. On most days he talked about rocks, weather, and how the moon moved. But on some nights he went outside with his old telescope and looked up at the stars. He liked to think about what was out there. What else was watching Earth? He didn't know that something had already landed. Far from town, deep in the forest, lay a crater. It was large, blackened at the edges, and still warm in places. Inside it, something stirred. Unit X7 woke again. It hurt. Its body was broken. Wires stuck out. One eye did not work. Its voice was gone, but it was alive. It tried to move, slowly, painfully. The air here was strange, thicker than on Zarithi worlds, cooler, Smelled like trees and rain. Unit X7 stood. It scanned its surroundings, trees, hills, sky. No enemies, no allies, just silence. Its mission was lost, its purpose taken. It did not know what to do next. So it walked. For days it wandered through the woods. Quiet, alone, it avoided roads, stayed away from lights, hid when planes flew overhead. Then one night, it saw a fire. A small cabin, smoke rising. A light in the window. Daniel sat inside, drinking coffee and reading a book. He heard a sound outside, like something stepping on branches. He looked out the window. Nothing. But he felt watched. The next morning, he found footprints. Big ones. Deep in the snow. He followed them, and then he saw it. At first he thought it was a bear, then a man in armor. But as he stepped closer, he realized it was neither. It was tall, metal and flesh, scarred and broken. Its eyes glowed faintly. Daniel didn't run. Instead, he said, "Hey." Unit X7 looked at him. It did not speak. Daniel took a slow step forward. "You're hurt," he said. Still no answer. Daniel went back to his cabin, came out with food, water, a blanket. He placed them on the ground, then he stepped back. The being stared. Minutes passed. Then it knelt, took the water, drank. Daniel smiled. "I guess you're not going to kill me." Days turned into weeks. Daniel helped the being heal. He called it X. They could not talk at first, but slowly they learned each other. Daniel showed X how to eat, how to walk without limping, how to sit. X watched Daniel cook, read, play music. One night, Daniel played a song on his guitar. X listened. Later it asked, "Why do you make sounds like that?" Daniel laughed. "It makes us feel things," he said. X tilted its head. "What kind of things?" Daniel paused. "Joy, sadness, hope." X thought for a long time. Then it said, "I do not feel those things." Daniel looked at it. "But you want to?" X nodded. "Yes." From that day on, Daniel began teaching X more about Earth, about people, about life. And X began to change. It started asking questions. What is love? Why do humans help strangers? Why? Do you laugh even when you are sad? Daniel didn't always have answers, but he tried. And in trying, he gave X something the Zarithi never did. Understanding. Not all at once, but little by little. One night, X asked, "Do you fear death?" Daniel looked at the stars. "No," he said, "because we live while we can. We build. We dream. We care for each other." X looked at him. "That is strange," it said. Daniel smiled. "Yeah," he said, "but maybe that's why we're worth saving." Outside the wind blew, snow fell. But inside the cabin, two very different beings sat together. One made of metal and war, the other made of blood and hope. And for the first time they were not alone. Far away from Earth, deep in space, the Zarithi watched. They had many eyes. Eyes made of light and thought. Eyes hidden in the dark between stars. One of those eyes saw what happened on Earth. Unit X7 was not dead. It was alive. And it was with a human. The message went back to the Zarithi. High command. There was silence. Then action. A scout ship was sent. Fast, quiet, invisible to most. It slipped into Earth's orbit like a shadow. Its mission, find Unit X7. But something else was waiting. Something older than the Zarithi. Older than the stars themselves. Deep under the ocean, buried in ruins no human had seen in thousands of years, a presence stirred. It had been sleeping. Not dead. Just waiting. The scout ship scanned the planet. It found strange readings, not from Unit X7, but from something else. Power, old power, scattered. Weak, but real. Back home, the Zarithi leaders frowned. This world should not have this, one said. Humans are weak, another added. But the data told a different story. Earth was not just a rock with small life. It held something forgotten, something that once ruled. And now, it was waking up. On Earth, Daniel and X sat by the fire. X had changed a lot. Its body was healing. Its voice was coming back, and its mind, it was full of questions. One night, Daniel asked, "Do you still want to destroy gods?" X looked at him. "No," it said. "I do not know what I am anymore." Daniel nodded. "That's okay," he said. "Sometimes we all feel like that." Outside, the wind howled. Snow fell, but inside they kept talking about war, about peace, about why people fight. Then, suddenly, X stood. It tilted its head. "What is wrong?" Daniel asked. "There is something in the sky," X said. Daniel looked out the window. He saw nothing, but X could hear things he could not. Far above, the Zarithi scout ship hovered. It sent down a probe, small, silent. It landed in the forest, not far from Daniel's cabin. Its mission, collect data. But it did not come alone. With it came whispers. Whispers that reached minds, not just human minds, other minds. Across the world, some people began to dream, not normal dreams. They saw old places, strange symbols, voices that called their names. In Mexico, a woman named Lina Torres woke up gasping. She was a marine biologist. She studied whales and dolphins, but now she remembered things she had never learned. She saw herself walking through water, not swimming. Walking. In Egypt, a man named Isaac Reed stared at an ancient wall. He was a historian. He had seen these carvings before. But now they moved. They glowed. They spoke. In India, a girl named Meera Patel sat at her computer. She was only 16, but tonight, she typed without thinking. Her fingers moved on their own. She wrote code she had never learned, code that opened doors in the sky. Around the world, others felt it too. They were not chosen. They were remembered. Their bloodlines carried something. Lost, not magic, not myth, but truth. Truth buried beneath time. Truth that said, we were not always weak. Back in Colorado, Daniel and X felt it too. The air felt heavier. The trees seemed to hum. X looked at Daniel. "I think," it said slowly, "something has returned." Daniel frowned. "To Earth?" X nodded. "Yes, but not from space," it added. Daniel looked outside. The snow had stopped falling. The wind had gone quiet. And somewhere far away, the ocean began to rise. The sky was still. But beneath the surface of Earth, something ancient began to move. It wasn't loud. It didn't crash or burn. It simply woke. And when it did, it reached out. Not with hands, with memory. Across the planet, people started to feel strange. Some had dreams that felt real. Others heard voices no one else could hear. And a few remembered things they had never been taught. In Mexico, Lina Torres stood at the edge of the sea. The ocean wind blew through her hair. She looked out at the water, and for a moment, she saw it, not as it was now, but as it once was. A city under the waves. Towers taller than clouds, lights glowing deep below. She gasped. Her feet were wet. She hadn't walked into the water. But somehow, she knew how. She stepped forward. The waves moved aside. Lina stared down at her feet. She was walking on the sea, not floating. Walking. She took another step. Then another, until she was far from shore. And then, the voice came. It wasn't in her ears. It was in her mind. "You are one of us," she asked. "Who are you?" The answer came slowly. "We were here before your time. before your kind built cities, before fire was yours to hold. She whispered, "What do you want?" To rise again. Back in Colorado, Daniel woke up with a start. He looked outside. The snow was gone. The trees were dry. Birds did not sing. Something was wrong. He stood by the window, its head tilted. "I hear them," it said. Daniel asked, "Who?" X turned to him. "The ones who slept." Before Daniel could ask more, the ground shook just a little, but enough. Outside, the forest seemed different, like it was breathing. In Egypt, Isaac Reed stood in front of an old stone wall. He had seen these carvings 100 times, but now they glowed. Red light ran through the lines like blood. He reached out. As soon as he touched it, the light jumped to his hand. His body froze. His mind filled with images, people in robes, strange weapons, sky ships made of black stone, and a voice, deep and calm. "You remember us?" Isaac fell to his knees. "Yes," he whispered. "I do." In India, Meera Patel sat at her desk. Her computer screen flickered, then changed. Words appeared that she did not type. She read them. They told her where to go. She left her home without telling anyone. She walked to an old temple hidden behind her, school. She pushed open the door. Inside, the air was cold. At the center of the room stood a statue, stone, dusty. But as she stepped closer, its eyes opened, not real eyes. Light. Meera stood still. The statue spoke in a voice like thunder. "You have the mind to wake what sleeps," she nodded. "I'll help." One by one, those who were called began to understand. They were not just humans. They were descendants, children of an age long forgotten. Their ancestors had lived beside the gods, had fought them, had sealed them away, and now the seal was breaking. Back on the Zarathi ship, the scout crew watched Earth closely. They saw the energy spikes, they saw the strange weather patterns, they saw the lights under the ocean. One of them frowned. This world should not be doing this. Another checked the data. "Something is waking," he said. "Not a god," said a third, "but close." They sent a message back to the high command. Earth was no longer quiet. It was stirring, and somewhere in the dark between stars, the command was given. Return. Now. Attack. Soon. On Earth, Daniel and X stood outside the cabin. The wind had picked up. X looked at the sky. "They are coming," it said. Daniel asked, "Who?" X's voice was low. "The Zarathi." Daniel swallowed hard. "Are they going to attack?" X nodded. "Yes." Daniel looked around. The world felt different, like it was holding its breath. He looked at X. "What do we do?" X looked him in the eye. "We fight," it said. Daniel smiled a little. "Even if we lose?" X nodded. "Yes." Daniel held out his hand. "Then let's get ready." X took it. Two very different beings, one born of war, one born of hope. Together. For the first time, Earth was about to face a storm, but it would not face it alone. The sky turned dark, not with clouds, with ships. Zarathi warships dropped from the stars like stones. They moved fast, silent at first, then loud. Then they fired. Across the world, beams of light came down. Cities burned, mountains cracked, oceans boiled. People screamed. Earth was under attack. In Colorado, Daniel and X stood outside the cabin. X looked up. "They are here," it said. Daniel felt his heart beat hard. "What do we do?" he asked. X did not answer right away. Then it said, "We fight." But how? How could one man and a broken weapon stop an army from the stars? They didn't know. But they had help. Across the planet, others began to move. Lena Torres swam through the deep waters of the Pacific. She was not alone. The ancient power beneath the sea had given her something, a suit made of living metal. It wrapped around her body like armor. She rose with the wave, and she brought the ocean with her. Isaac Reed stood in the desert of Egypt. The old carvings had spoken to him. Now, he spoke back. He raised his hand. The sand shifted. From beneath it rose weapons no human had touched in thousands of years, machines built by those who came before. He took one. It hummed in his grip. Ready. In India, Meera Patel sat in front of her computer. But she wasn't just typing. She was talking to something older than code. Old tech hidden in Earth's crust. She sent a signal, and the machines woke. All over the world, strange lights flickered, ruins came alive, weapons long forgotten began to charge, and then there was more. Unit X7 still carried parts of itself, tech stolen from the Zarethi. Daniel had studied it, learned it, fixed it. Now, he used it. With Meera's help, they built something new, a shield, small, weak, but enough to hide their base in the mountains. They called it Safe Point. More people came, those who had been called, those who remembered. They were not soldiers, but they were ready. The Zarethi thought Earth would fall fast. They were wrong. One night, a Zarethi drop pod fell toward the ocean. Its mission: destroy a signal tower that Meera had built. But Lena was waiting. She rose from the water like a storm. Her suit glowed. She jumped high into the air, caught the pod, pulled it down, into the sea. It exploded, but so did she. She survived. Barely. Back on land, Isaac led a team through the ruins of an old city. They found a Zarethi scout drone. It was scanning for humans. They ambushed it, used its own energy against it, broke it, took its core. Meera used it to build a jammer, something that could blind the Zarethi eyes in the sky. Soon the invaders couldn't see half of what was happening. Daniel and X led the final strike. They attacked a Zarethi outpost near the mountains. X knew how the enemy fought, knew their weak spots. Daniel knew how to lead. Together, they hit hard, fast, and they won. For the first time, the Zarethi lost a battle. On the command ship above Earth, the High Command watched. They saw the reports, losses, failures, human resistance. They did not believe it until the data came in. Humans had done this. Not gods, not ancient powers, just them. One Zarethi leader, Vila Rin, stared at the screen. She saw a video. A young girl, maybe 15, standing in front of a broken Zarethi scanner. She smiled. She held a stone in one hand, an old symbol carved into it. She whispered, "You don't belong here." Vila Rin leaned back. She looked at the others. "They are not prey," she said. "They are not even warriors." Pause. "They are something else." No one answered. But they all knew. This was not going as planned. Earth was not falling. It was rising. And for the first time in history, humans were winning. The Zarethi did not understand. They had seen many species, many wars, but never this. Never a world like Earth. It was small, weak, unarmed, and yet, humans fought back. Not with power, not with size, but with something else. Something the Zarethi could not name. On their command ship far above Earth, the High Command argued. "We must send more ships," said one. "We must end this now," said another. But Vela Rien, the commander who had watched the girl smile at the broken scanner, stayed quiet. She looked at the reports. She saw the footage. A mother in Tokyo carrying her child through fire. A boy in Brazil fixing a broken radio with wires and hope. An old man in Kenya singing while he dug trenches. And she thought, what are they made of? Back on Earth, Daniel and X stood on a hill. Below them, smoke rose from a fallen Zarethi pod. The fight had been hard, but they won. Daniel looked at X. "You don't seem surprised," he said. X shook its head. "I am," it said. "But I am not." Daniel frowned. "What does that mean?" X looked down at its hands. I was built to destroy gods, it said. I was told power is all that matters. Pause. But you do not have power. Not like us. Daniel smiled. Nope, he said. We die fast. We break easy. We make mistakes all the time. X looked at him. Then why do you keep going? Daniel shrugged. Because we care. X tilted its head. That does not make sense. Daniel laughed. No, it doesn't, he said. But it's true. He pointed to the town below. There's a kid there who lost his parents last week. He's scared, but he's helping others anyway. He turned to X. That's what we do, even when we're afraid, even when we hurt. X looked at the town. It tried to understand. It had no word for what Daniel just described. Not in its code, not in its training. Only now. Only here. Did it begin to feel something new? Not orders, not fear, but wonder. In space, Viola Rin stood in front of the high command. She spoke. We assumed Earth was weak because it had no weapons. One leader frowned. Of course it is weak. Viola shook her head. No, she said. It is strong in a way we do not know. Silence, she continued. They do not fight for land or power. They fight for each other. She paused. They give, even when they have nothing left. A voice asked. So what? That does not win wars. Vela looked at the screen. On it was the image of a child holding a flower near a crater. Behind her, a ruined city. In front of her, life. Vela said, Maybe. It does. Back on Earth, Lena Torres stood on the shore. The ocean wind blew. Her suit was broken, her body tired. But she had survived. Isaac came to her. He held an old book. It had symbols from the carvings. He said, This might help us next time. Lena nodded. Next time, she said. They both knew. The war wasn't over, but something had changed. The humans were no longer just hiding. They were learning, fighting, winning. And somewhere deep in the stars, the Zarithi began to doubt. Not their strength, but their mission. Unit X7 walked through the forest. It found a small village. Children played in the dirt. They saw it. They did not run. One boy stepped forward. He held out a toy, a small robot made of wood and string. He gave it to X. Here, he said, you look lonely. X took the toy. Its metal fingers held it carefully. It looked at the boy. It said, I do not know how to play. The boy smiled. I can teach you. X knelt, and for the first time, it sat and listened, not to orders, not to war, but to laughter, and joy. Back in space, Vela Rin stared at the stars. She whispered, They are not gods. Pause. They are not even warriors. Another pause. They are something new. And for the first time in her long life, she felt afraid, not of their power, but of what they might become. The Zarithi warship Kael'thar hovered above a dead moon. No life, no air, just dust and silence. Inside the ship, in a cold room made of black stone, Unit X7 stood. It was no longer on Earth. It had been taken, captured, brought back to face judgment. Before, it stood the tribunal. 3 Zarithi leaders, tall, pale, eyes like stars. They did not speak at first, they only watched. Then one said, Unit X7, you have disobeyed orders. X looked up. I did not believe the mission was just. Another leader spoke. You refused to destroy a primitive world. X nodded. Yes. A third voice, colder than the rest. You have broken your purpose. You are a weapon, not a thinker. X stepped forward. I was built to destroy gods, it said. But I have seen something greater than gods. The room grew still. One of the judges frowned. What could be greater than gods? X reached into its chest. It pulled out a small device. A human music player. It pressed a button. Soft sound filled the room. Music, guitar, voice, a man singing about love, about loss, about hope. The judges listened. Silence followed. Then the first judge spoke. "This is weakness." X shook its head. "No," it said. "This is strength." It walked forward. "You taught me that power wins wars, that strength decides fate." Pause. "But these humans have neither." It looked at each of them. "They fall easily, they die fast, but they do not stop. Even when they are afraid, they build. Even when they are hurt, they care. Even when they lose, they rise." It stopped. Then it said, "That is why they are dangerous." The second judge stood. "Dangerous? They are ants." X turned to her. "They made weapons from our scraps. They used old stories to break our machines. They fought with nothing but will." It paused. "And they won battles we thought impossible." The third judge leaned forward. "And what do you want now, unit?" X looked at them. "I am not a unit anymore." "I am not a weapon. I am something else. I came here not to beg for mercy. I came to show you the truth." He held up the music player again. "This is not war. This is life." He let the song play again. The voices rose, laughter mixed with sadness. Hope. The judges did not move, but their eyes changed. One asked, "Why would you do this?" X answered, "Because I learned from them. Because I saw what we missed." Pause. "We were told to kill gods. But what if the real gods are already gone? What if new ones are rising? And what if we are the ones who need to change?" The room stayed quiet, long after the song ended. Then the first judge stood. "You will not be destroyed." X waited. "But you will not return to service." Another pause. "You are exiled." X bowed its head. "Thank you." The second judge spoke. "And what? Of Earth?" X looked up. "Do not go back." "Why?" X met her gaze. "Because next time, you may not win." Outside the ship the stars burned, cold quiet. But inside, something shifted. Not war, not peace, but thought, change. On another part of the ship, Vila Rin stood alone. She had watched the trial. She had heard the song. She looked at the screen. Earth was far away, but she could still see it. A blue dot in the dark, small, weak, but burning. She whispered, "Maybe they are right." And for the first time in her long life, she smiled. The Zarethi made their choice. Earth would not be left alone, but it would not be destroyed either. Not yet. They wanted to know the truth. Was this world truly a threat, or just lucky? So they issued a challenge. A final test. If humanity could survive, one last attack unaided, Earth would be declared free. No more war, no more fear. But if they failed, Earth would burn. Across the galaxy, Zarethi ships gathered. They came from all corners of space, massive, silent, deadly. Their weapons were ready. Their minds were set. This was not war. It was an exam. Back on Earth, Daniel stood with X near the cabin. Snow had melted. Spring was coming. But something dark was in the air. X looked up. "They are coming," it said. Daniel nodded. "I know. They weren't the only ones who knew. Across the world, others felt it too." Lena Torres watched the sea. Isaac Reed walked through ancient ruins. Meera Patel sat at her desk. All of them heard the same message. You must stand together. In cities and towns, people began to gather. Not armies, not soldiers, just humans, farmers, teachers, engineers, parents, children. They didn't have weapons, but they had hope, and that was enough. The first wave came fast. Zarethi ships dropped from the sky like rocks. They fired beams of light that split. Mountains, cities shook, buildings fell. People ran, but not all. Some stayed. Some fought. Lena dove into the ocean. She wore her suit again. It was broken, but still strong. She rose with the tide. She met the enemy in the water, and she pushed them back. Isaac led a team through the desert. They found old weapons buried beneath sand, weapons built by those who came before. He aimed them at the sky, and he fired 1 shot, 2, 3. Each hit its mark. Ships fell. Smoke filled the sky. Mira sat in front of her computer. Her fingers flew over keys. She sent code across the world, code that turned off Zarithi shields, code that slowed their machines. She smiled. They can be beaten, she whispered. Daniel and X moved fast. They went from town to town, helping where they could, saving lives, fighting when they had to. X used stolen tech. Daniel used courage. Together, they held the line. And then came the worst moment. A huge Zarithi ship hovered above New York, its weapon charged. It would fire soon. And when it did, millions would die. There was no time to run. No way to stop it. Then someone spoke. Not a soldier, not a leader. A child. She stood in front of a camera, held up a drawing. It showed a man holding hands with a robot. She said, "Please don't hurt us." Her voice was soft, but it was broadcast, across the world, across space. The Zarithi heard it, and for the first time, they hesitated. Vela Rin stood on her ship. She watched the screen. She saw the child, saw the picture. She looked at the city below. People were scared, but they were not running. They were helping each other, crying, laughing, living. She turned to her crew. "Hold fire," she said. They stared. But the order, "Hold, fire," silence. Then the signal changed. The big ship stopped charging, the weapon powered down, the attack paused. On Earth, people looked up. They saw the pause. They felt it. Hope rose. Then Daniel stepped forward. He looked at the sky. He raised his hand as if he could speak to the stars, and maybe he could. "Listen," he shouted. "We are not gods. We are not warriors. But we are here, and we will not go quietly." His voice echoed. It reached far, even to the Zarithi command ship. One of the leaders frowned. "He speaks as if he has power," another answered. "Maybe he does." Unit X7 stood beside Daniel. It looked up. It raised its voice. "To the Zarithi, hear me. I was made to destroy gods, but I have seen what gods do not know. Pause. Love. Hope. Life. These things are not weak. They are strong. Stronger than you think." Silence followed. Long. Heavy. Then a voice came from the sky. Cold but not angry. "Humanity. Pause. Has passed the test." The ships pulled back. They vanished into the stars. The war was over. Earth had won. Not with weapons. Not with strength. But with heart. And somewhere deep in space, Vela Rin looked at the blue dot below. She smiled and she whispered, "Well done."